Welcome to the Food and Culture Learning Module, developed by Vatan Parast Nutritional Epidemiology Lab at the University of Saskatchewan's College of Pharmacy and Nutrition. Thank you to the Public Health Nutritionists of Saskatchewan for providing valuable feedback. This learning module was developed for use by Healthy Start des Parts Santé. We would like to acknowledge our partners, Réseau Santé en Français de la Saskatchewan, the Government of Saskatchewan, Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health, and Centre de Formation Médicale du Nouveau-Brunswick. Thank you very much to our funders, Community Initiatives Fund, and Nutrien. This learning module will show staff at early learning facilities how to celebrate and include culture and diversity in the facility. This is important to create a safe and welcoming place for all children. At the end of this learning module, you will be able to improve your knowledge of different cultures, understand food necessities associated with different cultures and religions, increase awareness of your own perceptions and attitudes toward different cultures, promote diversity in the learning environment, and develop cultural competency skills to better understand, communicate, and interact with people from different cultures. This slide provides a visual representation of the major countries of origin of people living in Canada. This slide provides a visual representation of the major countries of origin of people living specifically in Saskatchewan. This slide provides a visual representation of the major countries of origin of people specifically living in New Brunswick. There will be lots of information presented in this learning module, so at the end, if you can only remember 3 things, be aware of diversity, recognize your own biases, and be inclusive. Tips on how to speak to English language learners. Listen, be patient, and confirm that you understand. Allow the person to see your face when speaking. Find a different way to say it using different words. Speak and enunciate clearly, concisely, and not too fast. Keep your volume at a normal level. Try to avoid slang, larger or less common words, contractions, difficult verb tenses, and double negatives. Avoid large hand gestures as this can be seen as aggressive behavior by some cultures. Use visual aids when possible. Provide handouts as they can have it translated and learn it later. Point to something in the room or show something on your phone. Show how something is done in person. An important term to know is that of a worldview. A worldview is the way we think the world works and how we play a role. It determines our choices, life goals, happiness, finances, and treatment of others. It is learned from family, especially our parents, friends and other peers, and the media. It's also important to know the definition of culture. A culture is the values, beliefs, attitudes, and practices of a group or community. Each culture has a unique worldview based on the beliefs and values they share with other members of their group. This determines expectations about personal and public behavior, social interactions, and individual behavior. To help us learn about different cultures, we will learn about some common cultural differences. One is time. Some cultures value being on time for meetings and appointments. There are many cultures who like to finish one task before moving on to the next. They would not interrupt a current conversation for one that has not yet started. Courtesy and kindness are valued above deadlines. Touch can indicate courtesy and friendliness, particularly upon greeting. It can be an invasion of personal space. Some cultures believe the head to be sacred, so touching the head might be inappropriate. Touch can differ according to gender. For example, some cultures are not allowed to touch the opposite sex unless it is a relative, so even a handshake would not be allowed. It is always best to ask someone's cultural views on touching to proceed in the right way. Gestures are variable according to culture, and a gesture in one culture may have a different meaning in another culture. Ask for clarification if you are unsure. For example, nodding the head up and down means yes in some cultures, but no in others. The thumbs up gesture is positive in many Canadian cultures, but is rude, inappropriate, and even threatening in some cultures. Eye contact is variable among cultures. In some cultures, it means the person is paying attention. In other cultures, it is respectful to avoid eye contact. Take some time now to reflect on your own culture. How does your culture perceive time, touch, gestures, and eye contact? How does your culture affect how you perceive other cultures? Think about similarities and differences between your culture and others. Can you think of a time where you may have misunderstood something from another culture? How would you act or think differently now? Can you think of a time where your own culture was misunderstood? Is there a way you could politely explain the cultural difference? The following section provides food from regions around the world. The purpose of this section is not to memorize all the different foods. However, it would be good to revisit a certain section if you have a child from that region of the world in your early learning facility. Many cultures believe in therapeutic uses of food. Some cultures use the hot-cold system or the yin-yang system or others. This does not refer to temperature or spice, but represents physical and emotional balance and harmony with the environment. Foods can be hot or cold depending on the closeness to the sun, how they are prepared, and how they are thought to affect the body. Hot can mean strength, and cold can mean weakness. There can be a neutral category, neither hot nor cold, and the types of foods in each category differ according to culture and region. A balance between hot and cold is positive and healthy, while an imbalance may cause illness. More care is taken with children's diets as they can be more strongly affected by an imbalance. Some foods should be eaten at different times of the day. Some foods should not be combined with others. Table manners can vary across cultures as well. Many cultures eat with their hands. For most, only the right hand is used to touch anything on the table. This is because the left hand was used for cleaning oneself in the washroom. Some cultures keep the fork in the right hand and knife in the left. Some cultures switch hands to cut food. Others keep the fork in the left hand and knife in the right. For many cultures, hands should stay above the table with wrists on the edge. In other cultures, the hands stay in the lap when not eating. In some cultures, meals are served and or eaten from one shared plate. Here we have presented some common foods in North America. In this section, we would like to focus on North American indigenous cultures. These consist of the Métis, Inuit, and First Nations. However, cultural beliefs and languages of indigenous peoples vary between different indigenous cultures, communities, bands, and nations. Health beliefs include the traditional medicine, herbal remedies, and ceremonies, and these are all passed down orally from elders in the community who hold great knowledge of their culture's history. The medicine wheel is often used by indigenous cultures and can have unique features specific to each culture. One common theme is the importance of continuity and interaction between the physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional. Spiritual beliefs include living off the land, emphasis on the circle as a symbol, animals, oral history, and the importance of elders in the community. Knowledge is passed down by storytelling, ceremonies, dances, art, medicine, and other traditions. This slide covers a brief history of Indigenous peoples in Canada. When people came over from Europe, they traded with the Indigenous peoples. Sadly, the Europeans viewed their own way of life as superior and tried to force the Indigenous people to adapt what the Europeans termed a civilized society. Europeans opened residential schools where Indigenous children were forced to study European culture instead of their own. Many children who were forced to attend residential schools suffered physical and sexual abuse and resulting mental trauma from the abuse and forced abandonment of their own culture. The last residential school closed only 21 years ago in Saskatchewan, and the government has started to try at reconciliation. Treaties are agreements between the Crown, or Canadian government, and Indigenous peoples. They were formed to make military alliances to keep the peace and to try to pay Indigenous communities for the land they were taking. Saskatchewan treaties are Treaties 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10, and New Brunswick treaties are the Peace and Friendship Treaties. Due to terms in the treaties, many communities were forced to give up their great lands and settle on reserves. Today, many northern communities and reserves do not have access to things like clean water and affordable nutritious food. Now we will talk about the Indigenous traditional food culture. Meals are variable depending on the culture, area in which they live, and seasonal availability. Food should be balanced, consumed in moderation, close to nature, and of a variety. Traditionally, men were responsible for fishing, hunting, trapping, and caring for livestock, while women were responsible for gathering, preparing, and storing food, as well as making utensils, baskets, and other things. Traditional food is an important source of nutrition for optimal physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health. Some items regarding etiquette include that in some cultures, men are served first, followed by women and children, and sharing food is important. Any extra food is given to extended family members. It is not often sold. It is rude for a guest to refuse food. Many foods and herbs are used therapeutically. Follow this first link to see a clip on the significance of long hair for Indigenous males. Then follow the second link to see a clip on the significance of powwows. When looking at Indigenous traditional food customs, meals differ by culture, location, and season. Food should be balanced, consumed in moderation, close to nature, and of a variety. Traditionally, men went fishing, hunting, and trapping, while women did the gathering, storing, and cooking. Traditional food is important for physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health. Many Indigenous cultures traditionally give thanks, for example, by laying down tobacco, when harvesting and taking animal life during hunting to show respect to the provider, Mother Earth, that only what is needed is taken. Table manners include that sharing food is important. Any extra food is given to extended family members. It is not often sold. It is rude for a guest to refuse food. Many foods and herbs are used medicinally. Here is an overview of some common foods found in Central America. Central American traditional food customs have a religious influence of Christianity and mostly Roman Catholicism. Meals are served 4 to 5 times per day with a small early breakfast, late morning brunch, large afternoon meal with different courses, snack around 6 p.m., and a light late evening supper. Snacking is common. Food is used medicinally, and some Mexicans follow the hot-cold system. Table manners include that meals are prepared by women with help from servants if families can afford them. The host indicates when to begin eating. Dishes are passed to the left. It is rude to refuse food. The fork is in the left hand and knife in the right. Hands stay above the table with wrists on the edge. Next, we present some common South American food. South American traditional food customs have a religious influence of Christianity, mostly Roman Catholic, and traditional belief systems including the Incan gods, belief in spirits, and Yoruba deities called Orixa. Food has therapeutic uses. In some areas, the hot-cold system is used, and some foods are eaten because of their association with certain deities. Meals are served 3 per day with an afternoon snack. Those in poor rural areas may have only 2 meals per day. Table manners include that traditionally women prepare meals and men eat first. In some areas, the host indicates when to eat. The fork is in the left hand and knife in the right. There is no switching to cut food. Hands stay above the table with wrists on the edge, and bread is the only food eaten with the hands. Here we have some examples of common Caribbean food. Caribbean traditional food customs have a religious influence of Christianity. Many are Roman Catholic, Protestant, and Jewish. There are also folk religions, mostly Voodooism and Rastafarianism. Meals are served 2 to 3 per day, and there are healing uses of food, including the hot, cold, and cool, heavy, or light categories. Table manners include eating with a fork and knife, dishes passed to the left, hands stay above the table with wrists on the edge. It is impolite to eat before the host says so, and food should not be wasted. Do not take more than you can eat. Next, we have some common foods found in Africa. African traditional food customs have religious influences of tribal religions, Islam, and Christianity, including Baptist, Methodist, Episcopal, and Pentecostal. Meals are served 1 to 3 per day, with more snacks if fewer meals. Table manners in some areas include that men were traditionally served first, followed by women and children. Food is offered to anyone in the home. Use the right hand only. In some areas, meals are served on a communal plate. The next region we will cover is Northern and Southern Europe. Traditional food customs in Northern and Southern Europe have religious influences of Christianity, mostly Protestant and Catholic. Meals are served 3 to 4 per day, plus snacks in some areas. For example, tea or high tea in Britain and tapas in Spain. Table manners include holding the fork in the left hand, the knife in the right. In Britain and Ireland, hands are placed in the lap when not eating. In France, Italy, Spain, and Portugal, hands stay above the table with wrists on the edge. The next region is Central Europe. Central European traditional food customs have religious influences of Christianity, including Catholic, Lutheran, Jewish, Protestant, Mennonite, and Eastern Orthodox, as well as Gypsy spirituality, which is based on Asian Indian religions. Meals are served 2 to 3 times per day, no snacking in some areas, whereas other areas may have a snack or coffee breaks. Table manners include holding the knives in the left hand and forks in the right. Cutting certain foods with a knife is rude as it indicates the item is tough. Food is passed to the left. Hosts indicate when to begin. Hands stay above the table with wrists on the edge. In Germany, guests are usually invited for dessert only, but if invited to a meal, you must be on time. Next, we will talk about foods in the Balkans and Middle East. Balkan traditional food customs have religious influences, mostly of Christianity, including Greek Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, Catholic, and Protestant, and some Muslim. Meals are served 3 times per day, and table manners include that hospitality is important and guests will always be offered food and drink. Middle East traditional food customs have religious influences from Islam, mostly Sunni Muslim, Christian, including Jewish, Eastern Orthodox, Catholic, Anglican, Protestant, and Baha'i. Meals are served 3 times per day, and illness can occur with too many hot or cold foods. Table manners include that hospitality is important, it is rude to refuse food, and in some areas, women eat separately from men. Food is eaten from a large metal tray on a low platform or rug in Iran. Use utensils or 3 fingers from the right hand. Licking fingers and making eating noises are signs of appreciation. Refill your neighbor's cup when it is half empty. Leave a little food on your plate to show you are full. Now we have some foods from South Asia. Indian and Pakistani traditional food customs have religious influences of Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. Meals are offered twice a day with snacks. Texture, color, and balance of seasonings are important. Table manners include that meat consumption varies by caste and region. Many Hindus are lacto-vegetarian, which means they consume dairy and not eggs. Guests are often served first, followed by men, and then children and women. Eat with the right hand. Commonly use spoons, hands, or less often, knives and forks. Here are some East Asian foods. Here we have some East Asian foods. Chinese traditional food customs are influenced by ancestral worship, Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. Meals are often 3 per day plus snacks with balance between yin and yang. This does not refer to temperature, and proper amounts of fan and kai. Hot soup or tea is drunk at meals, and there are 3 main types of tea: black, green, and oolong. Bubble tea is made with large pearl tapioca. Items around etiquette include that people eat with chopsticks and a porcelain spoon. However, you do not lay your chopsticks across the rice bowl, and you do not stick them straight up in the bowl. Also, when eating rice, you raise the bowl to your mouth to eat. Tea is always offered and taken with both hands. People wait to eat until the elders start, and not much is eaten with the fingers. It is also rude to refuse food. Japanese traditional food customs are influenced by ancestral worship, Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. Meals are offered 3 per day and a snack. Each item should be seen, tasted, and savored. Food presentation is important. It signifies harmony in life. Green tea is served with most meals, as is pickled ginger, soy sauce, and sometimes wasabi. Items around etiquette include that you eat with chopsticks, kneeling at low tables, having first removed your shoes. Soups are slurped from the bowl, as slurping is a sign of appreciation. However, tea is not slurped. Serve beverages to your neighbor when their glass is half empty. It is impolite to serve yourself. Meals, if eaten out, have the host pre-selecting the menu, and games are often played after, including karaoke. Some food, if served together, is thought to cause illness. For example, cherries and milk. Korean traditional food customs are influenced by ancestral worship, Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. Meals include 3 small meals and frequent snacks with consideration for and yang. Beverages include soup, barley water, tea, and rice tea. Items around etiquette include that food is eaten at low rectangular tables with chopsticks and soup spoons. Elders are served first and children last. Food is passed with the right hand, and it is polite to fill your neighbor's soy sauce dish. Here we see some foods from Southeast Asia. Filipino traditional food customs are influenced by Christianity, Buddhism, and ancient religions, where beliefs of spirits and ghosts guard against misfortune or cause harm. Meals are offered 3 times a day with 2 snacks. Rice is eaten at meals and not snacks. There are 3 principles with balance between hot and cold. Never cook a food on its own. Fry with garlic in olive oil or lard. And the flavor of food should be sour, cool, and salty. For example, adobo consists of meat and garlic, lard, soy sauce, vinegar, chili peppers, and bay leaf, peppercorns, and vegetables such as plantain, potato, greens, or bamboo. Beverages include tea, often blended with flowers, broth, soft drinks, soybean drinks, and fruit drinks. Items around etiquette include that food is eaten at a table with a small turntable in the middle, using cutlery, chopsticks, or fingers of the right hand. The eldest male begins the meal, and it is rude to take the last food from the center platter. Vietnamese traditional food customs are influenced by Christianity, Buddhism, and ancient religions, where beliefs of ghosts and spirits guard against misfortune or cause harm. Meals include 2 to 3 per day, and snacks are uncommon. There should be a balance between duong and am. This does not refer to temperature. Tea is often blended with flowers, and served before and after meals, but not during. Items for etiquette include that you eat with hands, chopsticks, or spoons at low tables on mats with legs crossed and both hands resting on the table. The eldest is served first. Once everyone is served, ask the eldest if eating can begin. Conversation is usually limited. You must not refuse food offered and only take small amounts. Leave a small amount on your plate when full. Please keep in mind that the next slides about cultural food necessities, religions, and religious dietary laws are important to understand different cultural beliefs around food. The information does not reflect the views of the University of Saskatchewan or Healthy Start des Santé and may not reflect nutrition facts about food and health. Keep in mind that people of different cultures do not all have the same views. It is important to talk about cultural needs with the child's family and not assume they follow any specific dietary laws. For non-religious reasons, some people choose vegetarianism. Eating meat is mean to animals, vegetarianism is better for the environment, or vegetarianism is healthier. Some people also choose vegetarianism for religious reasons. To plan vegetarian meals, it is important to include meat alternatives for protein and iron. Meat alternatives are high in fiber and protein and often a healthy option. Offer meat alternatives with food high in vitamin C, such as citrus fruit, to help your body use the iron. There are 3 types of vegetarianism: lacto-ovo eggs and dairy products. Ovo-vegetarian means you can eat eggs and not dairy. Lacto-vegetarian means that you do not eat eggs and you can eat dairy. Whole food plant-based diet is a form of vegetarianism that promotes vegetables, fruit, and whole grains while limiting or excluding meat, dairy, eggs, and refined flour, sugar, and oil. Some people choose this diet for health reasons. This can be for religious or non-religious reasons. Vegan is a stricter version of vegetarian. It does not allow the consumption of animals or any food or beverage made from animals. Some do not use things made from animals either, for example, leather. Breastfeeding is recommended exclusively for the first 6 months and continued for up to 2 years or longer with appropriate complementary foods. If it is not possible to offer breast milk, a soy infant formula is recommended for children less than 2 years of age. Plant-based beverages are not recommended. If a child 2 years of age or older is vegan, instead of milk, offer a soy beverage fortified with vitamin D and calcium. Buddhist food culture. With a focus on all living things being sacred and to avoid violence in life, many Buddhists are vegetarian or vegan. Monks and nuns must rely on alms, as they are not permitted to cultivate, cook, or store food. Buddhists believe in the importance of moderation, so they eat with mindfulness and gratitude to provide nourishment to the body and avoid pleasure of food. Follow the link for a short video on the differences between Hinduism and Buddhism. Hindu food culture. Strict Hindus practice lacto-vegetarianism. The avoidance of killing animals is important to their culture. Dairy products are allowed. The cow is held in high regard, therefore many Hindus who do eat meat will not eat beef. Other dairy products are still allowed. However, there are also Hindus who do not follow food restrictions. Please follow the link for a brief video on Hindu food culture. Sikh food culture. Sikhs do not eat beef and rarely eat pork. Religious Sikhs are lacto-vegetarian. The religion emphasizes life in moderation. At the Gurdwara, or place of worship, people bring a donation in form of money or food. If unable to bring such a donation, a prayer is offered. Following the service, a meal is provided to all and is vegetarian, as Sikhs welcome all people from all religions and all castes. The food served must be modest to prevent wealthier communities from showing off with expensive food. Please follow the link to see a short video. Seventh-day Adventist food culture. Seventh-day Adventists follow the health principles, including fresh air, sunshine, moderation, rest, exercise, water, nutrition, and trust in the divine power. Seventh-day Adventists follow the whole food plant-based diet for health. The Jewish food culture has terms such as kosher, which means that food is permitted to eat, while trefa means forbidden food. Only some animals are kosher and must be slaughtered in a particular way. Dairy products should not be eaten with meat, and fish must have scales and fins. Look on food packaging for the following kosher symbols. Follow the link below to see a brief video on what is kosher. The Islam food culture uses terms such as halal to indicate that food is allowed and follows the ritual slaughtering of animals. The term haram means that food is not allowed and does not follow the ritual slaughtering of animals. This includes pork, alcohol, and items that contain things made from animal fat. Also, fermented bread may contain traces of alcohol, so may be haram. It is also haram to waste food. This is because it is seen as sinful or because it is a scarce resource. You'll also see that Muslims will feed children so that food is not dropped on the floor or smeared everywhere and wasted. It can also be offensive to use food to play with, such as Play-Doh or rice tables. Follow the link below to see a short video on halal. Cultural and religious food requirements are summarized in the table pictured here. Think about having a cultural day at your early learning facility. You can learn about food and culture together with the children. You can do activities such as art, where you decorate according to the culture you are celebrating and learning about that day. You can focus on literacy, where you read a book to the group about that culture. You can offer cultural food items at snack or lunch. For physical activity, you could play a traditional game or activity. You can listen to cultural music and dance if appropriate, or have the children make musical instruments. A great note is that if you have children from a specific culture attending your early learning facility, you could invite a parent or family member to come in and share about their culture, provide recipe ideas, or bring in show and tell items. Take a few moments now or at the end of this learning module to plan a day of culture at your early learning facility. You may want to choose the culture of one of the children at your facility, or your own culture. When would be a good time to plan this cultural day? Consult our multicultural events calendar on the next slide. What decorations would you like to put up? Can the children make the decorations during an art activity that morning or the day before? Do you know of any children's books containing that culture? What games could you play? Is there music you could listen to? What food items would you like to plan to have for snack and lunch? Ask a parent to volunteer and share their culture with your facility. Keep this multicultural special events calendar on hand to help you plan multicultural activities at your early learning facility. These last few slides will cover offering new multicultural foods to children. So how can we bring culture into the food environment in early learning facilities? Well, how do we get children to try new food? Try to serve meals family style with serving dishes on the table, allowing children to serve themselves. When introducing a new food, offer a familiar food as well. Keep in mind that multiple exposures may be required before an infant or child accepts a new food. It is normal for them to eat hardly anything one day and then a large amount of food the next. Remember that the caregiver provides the where and when to eat, while the infant or child decides whether or not to eat and how much. Children look up to adults, so caregivers should be encouraged to sit and eat with children at a table and model healthy behaviors. Children should also not be pressured to eat certain types or amounts of food or certain foods before others, as this can result in a negative relationship with food and eating. Do not use food as a reward or punishment, as this can distort children's perception of food and can lead to eating based on mood rather than hunger. It is also important to keep in mind the division of responsibility, whereby the caregiver provides the where and when to eat, while the child decides whether to eat and how much. Children look up to adults, so caregivers should be encouraged to sit and eat with children at a table and model healthy behaviors. Children should not be pressured to eat any amount of food, nor to eat specific foods before others. This can result in a negative relationship with food and eating. Do not use food as a reward or punishment, as this can change children's perception of food and can lead to eating based on mood rather than hunger. In conclusion, please keep in mind that people of different cultures do not all have the same views. Therefore, it is important to discuss cultural considerations with the individual family's needs and not assume they follow any specific dietary laws. Try to remember to be aware of diversity, recognize your own biases, and be inclusive. Thank you for participating in this cultural competency learning module. Hopefully it has given you a good overview of some differences between cultures. Remember, be aware of diversity, recognize your own biases, and be inclusive.